Hello! So this lecture, we are going to talk about supporting material and contextual reasoning. So let's get to it. All right, so there are three main types of supporting material, and that is examples, statistics, and testimony. Okay? So we're going to talk about each one. So different types of examples, hypothetical examples. Hopefully y'all know what a hypothetical is, but just in case, hypothetical is, imagine if this were happening, like a hypothetical situation. Hypothetically, someone comes in and starts yelling at you. How do you react? Or, whatever. Okay. Real examples can be really, really powerful. They are obviously not hypotheticals, like a make-believe. They are real examples because they're concrete and they prove that this situation has happened. This isn't a hypothetical. This has actually happened, or this is actually a real thing. Okay. Brief examples, as you would think, are just shorter examples, and then extended examples can be a little bit longer. Extended, I know this is all hard to figure out. But both can be really effective. Just because something is brief doesn't mean that it's more effective or less effective. Same with extended examples. So keep that in mind. Okay. Examples are really, really powerful to help you, again, this whole chapter is over supporting material, to help you provide that reasoning and that what am I trying to say? Just for their understanding. I mean, think about when you're in a lecture. When you're listening to a lecture, you appreciate when the instructor or whoever's lecturing gives an example, and it's the very same thing, okay? All right, using examples effectively. So now that we talked about the different types, how do we use them effectively? So these we're going to go over kind of quick because they're kind of obvious, but just to honor, what the chapter talks about, we're going to go over them. Use examples to clarify your ideas. Okay, so it helps clarify them. It's one thing to hear a definition, but it's another to hear what it means and what it can look like. Use examples to reinforce your ideas. Use examples to personalize your ideas. So that can be really helpful to make it more personal. Even examples from your own life can be really, really cool to hear in persuasive speeches or just in general of like, here's an example of how I use this. Here's an example of how I struggled with this or whatever. And then make your examples vivid. That way people can understand them. It's not this ambiguous example that they're like, okay, what does that even mean? How does that show me this? Okay. So next is statistics. Incorporating statistics. Use accurate statistics accurately. Okay. So let's break that down. So the first part, use accurate statistics. So first of all, get a statistic that's accurate, that's credible, that's good, and then use it accurately. What that means is use it in the way that it was supposed to be used. Okay? So it's very different when you leave out what's called a variable in a situation. So if you say 90% of people will be affected by coronavirus, but really the statistic was 90% of people that are of a certain age range will be affected by corona. I mean, that's a bogus statistic, but I'm just trying to think of one. That's a very different statistic than 90% of all people will be affected. Okay. Make your statistics concrete. So make them very easy to understand. Make them very, straight to the point. Something that everyone, again, we're trying to avoid ambiguity. Make statistical comparisons. That can be really good. So comparing, this percent of people will react, like this in the workplace. This percent of people will react like this, or, whatever it might be. Stack statistics. That can be really helpful as well. So what that means is you're just putting statistics on top of each other. So you're just kind of saying statistic after statistic after statistic. That can be really powerful. To keep throwing out that hard data and that hard information. And then use credible sources. Hopefully I don't need to drone on and on about this, but obviously when you're using statistics or anything, any research, it needs to be credible, not, something that you saw on social media from someone that you don't even know where they got that information. Okay. All right. Using testimony, different types of testimony. So there's testimony of experts. So a testimony of experts are just as it sounds, where people who are experts in the field come in and they give their testimony based on their research, based on their knowledge, based on their experience, what they feel the situation is or could be or should be or, whatever. Okay. Then there is eyewitness testimony. That can be really powerful. An eyewitness testimony is someone who it will, an eyewitness of someone who it will directly affect. It's very easy for people to, and I'm not negating the significance that expert testimony can have, but it can be very different for people who are experts that can theoretically talk about something, but then someone who is affected by it day to day and who is seeing it day to day. And then testimony of non-experts, again, that can be people that are credible in it, but they're not experts. So let's say they are wanting to do away with the Special Olympics. It can be very powerful to have a testimony of non-experts, of volunteers saying, we have never struggled finding volunteers, the happiness on the competitors' faces, blah, blah, blah. Yes, they're not experts, but they also are, they also have credibility in the situation because they're the ones in the situation seeing how it goes. Okay. All right. How to use testimony, quote or paraphrase accurately. So what I always think of this is reality TV, right? I love reality TV. I know it's all fake. Don't judge me. But with reality TV, what you see a lot is there's power in editing. And this is with anything, but there's power in editing. So so let's say I was relaying to a friend what someone else said and repeating what they said, but then you could edit that to make it look like I said that to the friend that I was relaying it to. Okay. So quote or paraphrase accurately. Make sure that whatever you use from someone, you use it in the way that they intended for it to be used. You keep in mind the tone and the important variables that play in. Okay. And then use qualified sources. Use qualified sources. Okay. All right. That was way quicker than I thought it would go, but a quick little rendition of supporting material. Keep this stuff in mind because it is very important to have these three and it just depends on what you need, whether you use an example, whether you use statistics, whether you use testimony, all three are good to have. Okay. All right. Y'all have a great day.